Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you for being here. Tack för sist. Välkommen tillbaka. Got to talk a little bit quietly tonight, so I'm a little closer to the camera than I like being. But even though there's still light in the sky, it's not dark yet all the way. It's 10:30 on August 11th, I think it is. I'm starting to lose track of time being here in Norway. But yeah, it's still light. If we'd have been here 2 months ago, it would have been light till midnight. But I don't want to disturb anybody, so I'm going to talk kind of quietly. So today I thought I'd go back to a subject I've talked about many times before. I've done a few just kind of lighthearted videos, just kind of fun, easygoing videos, showing some in Norway, and I'm going to do some more of that. I have some video I took today in just some amazing places. But I was watching some videos myself on YouTube, and I came across several videos of people talking about leaving their Mormon missions. And I wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit and just talk about that a bit, because it was something that really weighed heavily on me when I was here 43 years ago, when I first got to Norway in April of 1983. Somebody just walked by. It's, amazing thing here in Norway. Doesn't matter what the weather is. People are out all the time. They're everywhere all the time, just out enjoying nature. Today was actually a beautiful sunny day, but it wasn't warm. We were sitting at my aunt's house out in the country, and it was like 58 degrees, but it was sunny. And she's like, "Oh, this is perfect. This is perfect summer weather." And my wife was freezing, but it was beautiful. We had such a great day. Anyway, back to the subject. So I've talked about this a little bit in my videos before about, when I was in the Missionary Training Center, the MTC, for the Mormon Church in Provo, Utah. I was there from the end of February to basically the end of April, 1983. And I really didn't have any big problems there. I was a little homesick, but not really. I'd already been away to college for a year. It was different because I had rules. When I was in college, I really didn't have rules. I could kind of do what I wanted, when I wanted, go where I wanted. And when you're in the MTC, you have very strict rules. I believe we had to get up at 6 a.m. every day, and we went to bed at 9:30 a.m. or 9:30 p.m. That'd be a short day, 9:30 a.m., 9:30 p.m. every night. And you had to do scripture study, you had to do your classes. There wasn't a lot of free time. We had the one day a week where we could, go do some other things, but even that was kind of limited. We did gym time. Once in a while, we'd go to the mall, University Mall up in Orem. But it was very regulated. But I handled that fine. I kind of got to be friends with several guys that were there at the same time as me. So there was a few that I got pretty close with. One ended up going to Iceland, one to Finland. Actually, two to Iceland, one to Finland. And I don't remember where the other guy went I was kind of close with. It was all Scandinavia. And so we kind of formed a bit of a group, like a buddy group, and, it was pretty cool. But when I got here, my first town was Porsch, which is kind of over in the Oslo area, eastern Norway. And my first companion and I did not get along. He was not very nice to me when I got here. He was very just socially distanced from me. It's like we had to be together. You're thrown together with somebody you don't know, and you're expected to be together 24/7. And you're not even allowed to be apart from each other. You're supposed to be together all the time, other than like the bathroom and going to take a shower and stuff. And even that wasn't completely true, because we had to go shower at the town rec center, basically, because we didn't have a shower. We didn't even have a bathroom. We had to go downstairs to use the bathroom. So even then I wasn't completely alone, and that was hard. But then him being so socially distanced from me and kind of an awkward dude, and he was significantly older than me. He was 26, I was 19. And that's a big age difference then. He had, for whatever reason, I don't even remember what the reason was, had put off going on a mission for several years. And so he was a lot older than me. You know, if you're 35 and 28, it's not a big difference. But when you're 26 and 19, that's a big difference. And we just never got along. He was quiet a lot, and I was very lonely. I've talked many times about crying myself to sleep every night for weeks, and that going to bed at night was my escape into the dream world, and kind of escaping the mission because I was so miserable. And where the going home early part comes in is those first, well, 2 to 5 months. I mean, we finally started getting along okay after about 3 months. But even then, I didn't like him. He obviously didn't like me. I tried to be friends with everybody. This guy just was different. And I'm not going to put it all on him. I'm sure some of it was me. But you're young, you're pretty immature, you're in a foreign country. And even though it was my home country, I was in a city I didn't know anybody. My relatives were here on the West Coast, so I didn't know anybody out there. So we were literally two guys that didn't know each other, thrown together, expected to live together nonstop and get along and go teach people about the Mormon church. It was very difficult. Like I said, dreams were my escape. I would go to bed. I could not wait to go to bed. I've been reading my Mormon journal. I mean, it's back home in Utah, but when I get home, I'm going to continue it. And I'm finding it shocking. Even though I remember being very sad and very depressed, I'm finding it shocking how sad, how depressed I was, and how deep it was. And the dreams were my way of escape. Now, when you go on a Mormon mission, at least back then, you paid for the mission yourself, or your parents did, or a combination. I worked some, I saved up for some of it, but my parents paid for most of it. The exception is the church flew us to Norway, and they fly you home at the end. Except, excuse me, if you want to go early, you got to figure out how to get home. So obviously, as a broke 19-year-old in a foreign country, thousands of miles from home, my only ability to get home was my parents. If I had had the money, I'm almost positive I would have flown home and quit. I was so miserable and so sad and so unhappy. And reading these journals is just reaffirming all of that no, this was just not just in my head. This was real. You know, you look back at memories, and sometimes they're not always clear. You know, you have a memory of something that happened, and then whether you watch a film, a video, you read a journal, you find out, hey, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Well, it was worse than I thought it was. So I have no doubt that if I had had the financial means, I would have quit and gone home after probably the first 3 or 4 weeks in country. So about 3 months into the mission, an 18-month mission for me. They're 2 years. They were before, they were after. But for a little while, they changed them to 18 months. There wasn't a chance in hell that I was going to ask my parents for the money to send me home. They probably would have done it. They would have tried to talk me out of it. But they probably would have caved and done it. And I would have been so embarrassed. I'd have felt I let them down so much and disappointed them so much. Not just them, I mean, mainly them. But my ward, which is your local congregation, would have looked down on me, no question. I saw it happen. I've seen missionaries come home early, and they are looked down upon. I don't know if that's still the case. I can only speak for how it was for me and for people I knew. I had friends that didn't go on missions. In fact, I'm sure there's 1 or 2 that are watching this, and there are rumors, murmuring that goes around, like, why didn't he go? Why he should be on a mission. There was a lot of pressure, not just from the family, but from the ward, the congregation, the friends. And so what it boiled down to, it boiled down to my parents. I could not let them down. They were so excited. They were so proud of me. and especially the fact that I was going back to Norway. Now, in hindsight, I'm really glad I didn't have the ability to do that. I'm glad I didn't have the financial means to do that, because I would have, and I'd have missed out on, I don't want to, it's hard to say a really cool experience or a really fun experience, because those aren't the words for it. A very life-altering experience. It built something in me. Oh, I hear other people out here, so I'm not alone. There they go. Oh, by the way, here in Norway, scooters, electric bikes are everywhere. We've been using them. They're really easy to use. You get an app and you scan the code, and they're cheap to use. And when we came back from downtown the other night, on Saturday night, my kids and my wife and I all rode scooters back. Very cool. That's what you saw go by just now. Maybe an electric bike. I wasn't looking really closely, but huge here. We have an electric car. I just saw a stat that 96% of cars made in or sold in Norway in 2025 were electric. I'm iffy on electric cars, but that's for another time. We may do a video about that. But yeah, so it boiled down to just trying to make my family proud. And like I said, here's another one. I would have missed out on a lot, because I eventually got to the point, especially after that first companion, I was with him for 5 months, which is a really long time. You're not normally with somebody for 5 months. There's somebody else walking. And I don't know why, because the mission president knew we didn't get along. I don't know if he was trying to force us into it. That first mission president was not a nice dude. My second one was a great guy. Really nice dude. He actually cared about the missionaries, and maybe the first one did too in his own way. He was just kind of a bitter guy. I've mentioned before that he had fought in the resistance against the Nazis for Norway. He had been captured and tortured by the Nazis, and he was just kind of a bitter man. And you can't really blame him for what he went through, so I try not to judge him too harshly. But I don't know why he left us together. Normal is like 2 to 3 months with somebody, and then you transfer and go somewhere else. And we transferred together to another town. That almost never happened. Once I got past him, I became the senior companion, and I got a new kid from the States who barely spoke Norwegian, but we got along really well. He was one of 3 that I really enjoyed. I can't remember how many companions I had, somewhere between 7 and 9, 6 and 8. I don't even remember. I remember the first one. I remember another guy. He was a nice enough dude. We were very different. But the second one got along great with, and then my last 2, we were like best friends. We got along fantastic. My very last companion was from Oslo, so he was Norwegian. And my Norwegian by then was already pretty fantastic anyway, but that really spiced it up and got it in full gear. And I wouldn't have met those dudes. I wouldn't have known them. I wouldn't have had the experiences. I wouldn't have got to meet all my family, because my last 5 months was served in my hometown of Stavanger, Norway. And the mission president was kind enough to let me go see all my relatives. I got to go out to the country and spend a couple of weekends out there with my grandparents and see cousins. I would have missed all of that. So I say it all the time. I don't have regrets. I don't even know what the right word for it is. I wish the first 5 months here wouldn't have happened. I would have been with somebody different, maybe in a different town. And there's nothing wrong with Porsch. Porsch is a beautiful city. But I was led to believe it wasn't before I got here. And then I got a companion that I didn't get along with, who didn't treat me very nicely. He treated me like he was my boss, not my companion. I finally put an end to that maybe 6 or 7 weeks in. I had it out with him. And I let him know this wasn't happening anymore. This was my mission as much as his. So I feel for guys that come home. I understand it. You know, if you're from the States or from Canada and you serve a mission in Canada or the States, it's pretty easy to get home if you want. I mean, you could hitchhike home, literally, especially back then. There was no way for me to get home. I had no money. I relied on my parents to pay. You know, I paid for the first couple of months of my mission, and after that, they sent me think it was $200 or $300 a month, and that covered my rent, my food, whatever else I needed. It was pretty cheap to live back then here. It's not cheap to live here now. It's very expensive in Norway. So that's kind of my story of, if I could have come home, I would have. And I would have let my parents down. I would have disappointed them. They would have been very sad, but I probably would have done it because I was so miserable. I don't think anybody, any 19-year-old kid should have to deal with what I went through, and I know others have dealt with this. I talked about a guy I watched a couple of weeks ago who served a mission in Southwest Russia, and the things I didn't have to go through what he went through. But he talked about escaping into his dreams too. And I've known lots of people that have big stretches of just being miserable and sad and depressed. And if I was 30 when I was gone, I'd have found a way to get home one way or another. There was a guy here that I knew fairly well. He served a mission here. I can't remember where he's from, but he was from the States. Most guys that came from the States learned to speak Norwegian pretty well, but you could tell easily when they spoke that they were American. This guy got the Trondheim, which is a city up north, fourth biggest city in Norway. He got that accent down pat. You would never know he was American. And he got sick and tired of it and sad and depressed, and he just quit. And he just disappeared. He just disappeared into the city. Nobody knew where he went. They found him a few months later. He had a girlfriend. He was living in an apartment. He had a job. He was like, I'm not doing this. This sucks. I hate it. It's miserable. Why am I doing this? I mean, I questioned myself and I knew I had, but when I read the journals, I'm like, I question it constantly. And I'm going to read you some of those passages because it's shocking to me how often I was like, why am I here? I don't know if I believe this. What am I doing here? And it was constant. So anyway, I'm going to end it here. It's getting kind of late. We got a big day tomorrow. We're going on a big hike tomorrow. Very excited. I'll take some video up there and hopefully be able to share it with you in the next day or so. So thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Excuse me. Y'all are awesome. We just had Thai food. My daughter wanted Thai, and one of my cousins told her about this Thai restaurant here. Said it's the best in the city. We went and had it. It was amazing. So thanks for watching. We will talk again soon. Takk for denne gang. Vi snakkes igjen snart. By the way, the Norwegian is coming back. It's becoming more and more comfortable to talk, and I'm forgetting fewer and fewer words. A few weeks here, I'd be right back to just being completely fluent again. So it's very cool to be back home. I hope I don't go this long before I come back again. So we will talk to you all soon. Thank you very much. I dig y'all. Peace. Love.